at the side entrance of Birch Hollow Apartments on South Peoria Street in Aurora just after 7:43 in the morning on Monday. Trash pickup backs the alley for a few steady minutes and leaves a narrow window of blind approach. The door controller audit exports a neat badge reader CSV that shows fob ending in 08 used at 7:43, while the regional transit bus GPS still has the Route 21 coach idling 3 stops south on East Mexico Avenue. The two clocks insist the same woman arrived and did not arrive. If the records insist on routine, who used that gap and how did they hide the time? Stay. What breaks the alibi is small, mechanical, and easy to miss. Erin Dalton moves through this brisk and practiced. She is 39, a certified nursing assistant at University Hospital's med-surg floor, good with shift charts and med rounds, less good with her own sleep. She is a single mother. Rent pulls at her. Her daughter's after-school program wants another check by the end of the month. Erin's competence is the same thing that traps her. She can fit one more obligation into a day already full. On Thursdays, she walks 2 blocks to St. Gabriel Community Desk, a parish hall that runs a food shelf and once a week a narrow resettlement help table that mostly hands out bus maps and forms. They have a laminated sign that says, "Host Homes Wanted." The stack of intake packets is never thick. A volunteer named Ruth, retired county clerk, keeps a box of dollar store reading glasses on the folding table and says without pressure that even a couch helps someone get through the first month. He is introduced as Samir Qadr, 22, from Taiz, Yemen. The file calls him a student and includes a scan of an English language program enrollment letter for the community college in Littleton. The letter has a registrar stamp. The plastic lanyard that holds his temporary campus credential says visitor but reads like future. The mask sits well. A young man with a class list, an orientation date, a transit card, and a tutor slot on a Tuesday afternoon. He answers simple questions in gentle syllables and lets the letter do most of the speaking. The caseworker points to the boxes on the form that matter. No prior U.S. address, no U.S. bank account, no vehicle, no family and state. Erin has a couch and a second bedroom she uses for laundry overflow. She has a calendar with color blocks. She has a list of rules she writes out with a fine point pen. No guests, quiet after 9, kitchen cleanup after use, keep the chain on the door at night. The rules calm her. They make the idea look like process rather than chance. The parish desk has a standard host agreement. It is 3 pages, 3 signatures, 2 copies. Her wristwatch buzzes the hour as she writes her name. Weather presses snow against the county that week, then backs off to cold rain. The building's courtyard camera has moisture trapped under the lens and shows halos at night that make headlights look like slow meteors. Facilities marks that camera as down in their maintenance tickets. No one rushes to fix it before the storm clears. In the hall outside Erin's unit, the exit sign flickers and then steadies. Routine holds. Samir brings a duffel and a soft-used backpack. He carries little else. He wears the campus lanyard when they ride the elevator. It reads as permission, even here. He asks where to put his things and stands waiting for a place in the room. Erin points to the spare bed, the extra shelf, the gap in her schedule where this will fit. She draws a box on the dry erase board on the fridge for bus routes and posts a handwritten note with the Wi-Fi name. The mask of student tightens with these small ties. An app login, a pantry shelf, 2 mugs in the dish rack instead of 1. The system is already in the walls. The side entrance has a proximity reader. The elevator logs by floor but does not save long. The municipal bus app pushes arrival times to a map that refreshes every half minute. The grocery on Havana saves cashier receipts with time to the minute and terminal ID. The machines keep their quiet count whether anyone checks or not. Pressure makes the choice plausible. Erin's hours have been cut by 1 shift a week. Her ex is behind on child support. Food costs keep walking up. The parish desk offers a small stipend for hosts, approved by a community grant, paid the last Friday of each month on a prepaid debit card that arrives by mail. The stipend will cover the after-school invoice and then a little. It is a Saturday when the host agreement is signed. The form uses the word placement as if someone drew a grid and assigned coordinates. The parish clerk stamps a copy and slides it into a manila folder with the lanyard, the class letter, and a photocopy of a passport page. The clerk keeps the originals. The rest go into Erin's tote bag with her lunch containers and a folded bus map. The commitment is now in paper and ink. Travel is not booked, but a different kind of line has been crossed. The file has a home address, and Samir has a key fob that opens a door. The pivot comes at the mailbox bank in the lobby. The prepaid card envelope drops in with the morning mail slot noise, and Erin tucks it into her bag without opening it. The stipend is real now. The arrangement is no longer a maybe. The first week looks like what the parish office hopes for. Samir attends orientation at the English language lab. The campus badge swipe logs show his visitor card at the Student Union printer station just after 10 in the morning on Tuesday. And again at the library gate just before 2 in the afternoon on Thursday. The logs are thin but present. They travel with him like a paper trail laid down by other people's readers. Erin texts her sister that it is working. The apartment is quieter than she expected. He is polite. He washes dishes. He takes the trash out to the alley roll-off early before the truck grinds in. Then small things settle wrong. On the route sheet that Erin keeps taped to the fridge, her morning commute always lists the route 21 inbound at 7:11. On Wednesday, there is a handwritten correction. Got off at Mexico, walked. The bus GPS archive later will show a 3-minute dwell at that stop that does not fit the day's traffic. It is the kind of pause that does not register as a problem until someone places it next to something else. In the bathroom, the bleach smell is fresh when no load runs. The shower is dry, but the drain ring looks polished as if wiped. In the kitchen, a chef's knife rests in the rack with a hard shine. Erin notices and tells herself that clean is good. She says this aloud once to reset her head. She is tired. The med-surg floor has been short all week and she is picking up tasks that are not hers. The grocery cashier receipt for Thursday shows 2 heavy items in the list: contractor-grade trash bags and thick rubber gloves. The timestamp is 6:58 in the evening. The cashier ID is there. The price matches the shelf tag. The bags are a normal choice for someone who worries about torn liners. Normal is elastic when the rest of a cart is eggs, rice, and tea. Erin's smartwatch steps log shows a burst at 1 in the morning on Friday. A few hundred steps, tight clusters between the bedroom and the hall. Her sleep app calls those minutes restless and moves on. She forgets to charge the watch the next day and loses a few hours of data. The loss is small, but later will feel like a pulled thread. The primary system that seems to support the cover story is the building's door controller audit. Fob 08 assigned to Erin shows regular use. In at 7:43 most mornings, out at 7:55 to walk her daughter to the bus stop, in again at 8:10. The pattern is steady. It even shows a polite courtesy. The door opens twice in quick succession on Saturday mornings, as if someone is holding it for the second person. The logs do not say who. The logs do not know the watch on Erin's wrist is not near the reader at those exact seconds. The machine claims routine. Money moves. The stipend card activates online with a 2-factor text. Erin uses it to pay the after-school program fee on Friday night. The time on the transaction says 7:02. The program sends a receipt with a small primary color logo and a thank you line. A relief sits on her shoulders she had not planned to feel. She tells herself this was the right call. There are red flags that land soft and get rationalized. A campus calendar invite for a tutoring session shows accepted at 9 that same Friday, but the library gate log never shows an entry. The excuse is simple: snow, bus, delay, reschedule. In the alley, the recycling bin lid is cracked and a neighbor props it with a broken broom handle. The courtyard camera still shows halos. Facilities has ordered a new housing, but shipping is slow. On Sunday afternoon, Aaron posts on the building's app a small welcome note about community, rides to the grocery if anyone needs one, and a reminder about quiet hours. Names are not shared. It is a public statement of a private arrangement. It cannot be taken back without explanation. She does not think of it as non-reversible. It is just neighborly. The line that cannot be uncrossed is quiet. On Monday, the door controller shows fob 08 used at 7:43, but the bus GPS for Route 21 holds Aaron's ride south of the intersection for another 4 minutes. The gap is small. The audit sheet looks clean. The discrepancy looks like drift. It sits there, harmless, until someone puts a finger on both at once. The pivot comes late, with a signature she cannot see. Samir stops wearing the visitor lanyard inside the apartment and keeps it looped on the bedpost. The habit changes nothing and changes everything. It is the first move he makes that belongs to him and not the process. 2 weeks after Samir moves in, the air changes for the floor. The neighbor across the hall, a retired mail carrier named Corinne, keeps a regular ear for the morning sounds. The elevator chime, the stomp of school shoes, the slap of the alley truck at 7:40. She realizes on a Wednesday that she has not heard the child's quick steps to the bus for 2 days. In the laundry room, a cart is parked with Aaron's cloth bag folded in it, as if placed for the next load that never came. Corinne writes a note. When no one answers by afternoon, she calls non-emergency. The call logs show the time is 3:19 in the afternoon. The dispatch code is welfare check. Aurora police knock once, and then twice. The officer notes a faint odor that is not yet strong, but is wrong for an apartment that usually leaks the smell of coffee by 8. The door is latched inside. Management authorizes entry. The building's elevator camera is working. It records the officer's arrival and the maintenance man with the master key. Inside, the living room is neat. The kitchen is clean. The bathroom drain smells of fresh product. The officers back out and request detectives. The call shifts from welfare check to missing person with suspicious circumstances in less than an hour. By evening, machines that do not care about human framing start to talk at cross purposes. Erin's smartwatch syncs to her phone through the apartment Wi-Fi at 8:12 in the morning on Tuesday, which says the device was near. But her cell phone tower handoff map shows a stationary handset between Monday night and the moment the police enter. It has not moved beyond the southeast corner sector. It has not left the unit or the building. The door controller audit insists her fob opened the side door at 7:43 that morning. Yet the bus GPS replay places her regular bus 3 stops south at that exact time. The contradiction hardens. Either the bus lies or the door lies, or someone is wearing routine-like clothing that does not belong to them. Detectives pull cashier receipts from the grocery on Havana. They find Thursday night's purchase of contractor bags and gloves. They note a Sunday charge at a discount store for duct tape and a plastic drop cloth. The items alone are not crimes. Together with a missing mother and a silent child, they create a timeline kinked toward harm. The store CCTV frame with time code shows a hood up and a mask compliant with cold weather and nothing more. The film does not give them a face. The timestamp does. Samir's campus badge stops pinging gates after the first week. There is no record of attendance for the second week's classes. The visitor card is not used. The program office says that is not uncommon in winter. The parish desk cannot reach Erin on her phone. The stipend card goes unused after Friday's payment. The prepaid portal shows a balance that does not move. Automated systems are the first to notice absence, not friends. Leverage tightens by itself. Samir's immigration status, as declared in the file, hangs on attendance at the language program and a clean address. A notice sent by the program after a missed intake meeting goes to the Birch Hollow mailbox. It sits there beside a flyer and a coupon envelope. If he leaves, he risks being out of status. If he stays, he stands inside a building now ringed with suspicion. Detectives check the building's trash collection schedule and request the roll-off hall tickets from the sanitation contractor. The ticket numbers and times come back in a tidy PDF. The truck left the alley at 7:52 on Monday, was weighed at the transfer station at 8:19 and dumped by 8:37. Those times bind. The lead detective calls the county sheriff to place a temporary hold on that load at the landfill. The landfill supervisor flags it. This is what it looks like when machines built for billing and routing are turned to a different purpose. A small thing breaks the alibi. The door controller CSV shows fob 08 at 7:43 on Monday. But the elevator log, which is not time-synced to the door reader yet keeps its own seconds, shows no car movement from lobby to floor for another 6 minutes. The only way to reach the side corridor without the elevator is the stairs at the far end. The stairwell camera is the one with moisture under the lens, the one marked down. The missing piece is exactly where someone would walk if they wanted to match a log without being seen. It is the kind of gap a person can study and then use. By Thursday morning, a judge signs a preservation order for the building's server and for the transit agency's bus GPS archive. The order names devices and time, ranges. It freezes clocks. It also triggers notices. The parish desk receives a call from detectives asking for a copy of the host agreement and the passport scan. Those documents move from a church file box to an evidence envelope. The constraint that locks in is simple and bureaucratic. The detective working with the county prosecutor's office calls the community college and requests a hold on the visitor badge, then alerts airport interdiction at Denver International to place a notification on the name in the passport scan. If he tries to fly, someone will call. If he tries to ride the intercity coach, a toll plaza ANPR hit will catch the plate of any ride out. The clock is now on the room and on the man. The apartment is sealed with evidence tape. The stairwell camera still blinks moisture halos, but the rest of the building has turned into a grid. The room seals, and the case turns from a welfare check to a machine that moves paper, data, and bodies. Detective Marisol Vega takes the board in the squad room with a clean grid, left column for time slices, right for systems. She draws 3 stacked timelines in thin black pen. Top line is human routine, work shifts, school bus, parish desk hours. Middle line is machines, door controller openings, elevator movements, bus GPS stops, cashier terminals. Bottom line is supply and waste, trash roll-offs, transfer station scales, landfill grids. Nothing on the board is an opinion. Her first leverage is the unsynced clocks. The building door reader lives on its own cheap quartz tick. The elevator logger runs from a cabinet unit set by hand at installation. The transit archive is time disciplined to a network time server that never drifts more than a few seconds. Vega calls the vendor printed at the bottom of the door CSV and asks for the configuration export. The export lands in her inbox at 3:26 in the afternoon and says the reader's internal clock is slow by almost 1 minute a week. That quiet drift matters. She writes the offset in red next to the gap on Monday. Jurisdiction friction arrives as soon as she asks for more. The community college cites federal student privacy rules and routes her request to legal. The parish desk has documents stored in a banker's box and a volunteer who will hand them over but wants a receipt and a promise they will be returned. The consulate hotline for Yemeni nationals is answered on a recorded loop that asks for a case number before a human voice comes through. Vega keeps her tone level and writes down the name she is given. A translator is put on standby. The airport interdiction team logs the passport scan in their local watch. Homeland Security Investigations asks, by form email, whether there is a nexus to federal offenses. Vega replies that the nexus is attendance compliance linked to a visa and the possibility of interstate flight, and leaves it at that. The request is enough to keep the notice live. Inside the apartment, crime. Scene keeps to their scripted motions. Nitrile gloves, brown paper bags, boxed swabs, separate chains of custody. The bathroom drain cover goes into one envelope, the rubber gloves from under the sink into another, and the plastic packaging from the contractor bags into a third. On the kitchen counter, a lined notepad sits with bus route numbers written out and one underlined, Route 21. The pen's last mark is dark. Vega flips the page and sees the back imprint of a question about roll-off pickup days. She circles it and adds a note to her board. The pressure on the suspect is invisible but tight. Attendance at the language program is lapsed. A warning letter, printed and sealed 2 days earlier, waits in the building's mailbox cluster. The stipend prepaid card, unused since Friday, shows a balance that cannot be converted to cash without an ID match at a partner store. The campus visitor badge, if scanned again, will flag as inactive by the morning because the college IT staff runs a weekly cleanup on Wednesday nights. Routine is about to turn against the person who studied it. The parish clerk, Ruth, is a retired county clerk with a habit she never put down. Paper in order, dates in the corner, names spelled the same way every time. Vega invites her to the station for a short talk. Ruth arrives with a folder of copies and a steno pad. She reads the host agreement out loud once, not for drama, but to make sure the words are in the room. When Vega asks what she saw at the desk those 2 weeks, Ruth says that the young man watched her hands as she keyed stipend cards and intake forms. He did not watch the line or the clock. He watched the sequence and the keystrokes. It is a detail that rings true to Vega. Samir may not have had a car or a card, but he understood systems. He wore the student lanyard like a pass and then stopped wearing it when it was no longer useful to the home routine. The coercion mechanism clarifies, whoever is inside Birch Hollow is constrained by money that cannot be moved without receipt checks, by attendance rules that are already failing, by a building that now records everything he does except where the one broken camera points, and by a trash stream tied to weights and dates. Vega shifts from asking what happened to asking how to make the grid close. She has the landfill hold. She has the airport notice. She needs a pull that makes him move. The parish desk becomes more than a place to hand over forms. It becomes a lever. Ruth drafts a short message and, with the detective's recorder watching, calls the number on Samir's intake sheet. The voicemail greeting is generic. She leaves a neutral sentence. A routine stipend reissue requires a signature at the desk, with hours listed as late afternoon through early evening. She does not pressure. She does not mention police. She speaks in the same calm tone she uses for everyone who stands at her folding table. Vega draws a simple network map on her board. Apartment, parish desk, campus gate, grocery, bus stops, landfill. Lines between nodes are not dotted with theories, they are wired with time windows and cameras. She sets a safe contact for Ruth, a short phrase that can be spoken on a call to signal that the subject has arrived or that the situation is wrong. The phrase is ordinary enough to pass. Quiet hours. If Ruth says the parish is entering quiet hours, the team moves. The checkpoint comes when the parish agrees to place a small sign at the desk. Stipend reissue desk open until 5:30. The hours are true. The coordination with detectives is not disclosed. The first recording is captured that evening. An incoming call from a prepaid number asking whether the desk will be open the next day. Ruth writes the time on her steno pad as she speaks the way she did when she stamped county documents. The machine is now set. The human piece has leaned into it. The board fills with hard artifacts. Vega picks the chain that will hold in court and in a mind that needs the sequence to make sense. Artifact 1 is the door controller CSV with fob 08 ping at 7:43 on Monday. She annotates it with the vendor's drift export, which proves the reader's clock is slow. Artifact 2 is the bus GPS replay that locks the Route 21 coach south of East Mexico Avenue at the same minute. The overlay shows that Aaron could not be at the door and on that bus. Artifact 3 is the landfill ticket tied to the alley roll-off pulled at 7:52, weighed at 8:19, and dumped at 8:37, a chain that fixes mass leaving the building during the same hour window. Artifact 4 is the cashier receipt and paired CCTV frame from Thursday evening showing the purchase of contractor bags and rubber gloves, time-stamped 6:58 with terminal ID and employee number. Artifact 5 is the smartwatch sync at 8:12 on Tuesday, captured by the Wi-Fi router log, which places the watch inside the apartment even as the phone remains stationary by cell tower sectors. Together, these items describe a person who kept the victim's devices within range to create the illusion of presence, who used her fob to ghost an entry, and who understood the one broken camera and the one blind moment created by the alley truck. The controlled meet is simple enough to execute without drama. The parish desk operates in a church hall with 2 entrances, a glass door that faces a small parking lot and a side door that opens to an alley shared with a thrift store. Vega places 2 plain sedans in the lot. One holds a county sheriff investigator with a clear line on the glass door. The other holds a state CID agent who will watch the sidewalk. A third unit, unmarked, roves the block in a slow rectangle to cover anyone who approaches on foot from the bus stop 2 corners away. The airport interdiction team is notified but stands down unless the name pings a boarding scan. The landfill. Supervisor keeps the marked load quarantined behind a tape line under an orange windsock. The campus security office emails that the visitor badge now reads inactive. The grid is quiet, but readied. Ruth runs her hour at the folding table with her steno pad and the sign about stipend reissues. The soup kitchen crew preps for the evening service. Their shift change is at 4. Vega times her move between the handoff of ladles and the start of the line. She does not want the lobby full when the subject walks in. She places 1 uniformed officer 2 rooms back, visible only if summoned, to avoid scaring off a person who may check for badges. At 3:41, the prepaid number calls the parish phone again. The recording captures a short question about the exact closing time. Ruth answers in the same even way. She does not use the safe phrase. She writes the time in the margin. Vega notes the call ID and sends it to the Cybercrime Bureau to query common retail activation points for that number block. The Bureau replies with a likely purchase at a small electronics stall on Colfax, paid in cash that week. It is not proof. It is another strand in a net. Pressure is visible on the edges. Vega watches the battery indicator on the parish desk tablet tick down to 12% and plugs it in herself. She checks the light rail departure board on her phone to know when trains will disgorge riders who could crowd the sidewalk. She texts the unmarked unit to nudge 2 cars away from the curb to keep sight lines clean. She makes her team repeat the code word once out loud and once by text. Quiet hours means the subject is in front of Ruth. quiet hours plus a first name means the subject brought someone else. At 4:19, a figure in a dark jacket and a cap steps off the bus and walks the long way around the block instead of straight down the sidewalk. The roving unit calls it out on a low channel. He does not go to the glass door. He angles toward the side alley and pauses at the thrift store window, using the reflection to look at the parish hall interior. It is a move that belongs to someone who has learned to make walls and glass work for him. Ruth does not look up. She keeps her pencil resting on the steno pad. The man cuts across the alley to the parish side door, opens it, and takes 2 steps inside. Ruth looks once, half smiles the kind of neutral smile she gives everyone, and says the phrase she has practiced into the phone tucked under the table. She says that the parish will enter quiet hours soon and asks for the intake form name. Vega hears the words in her earpiece and feels the clock start. The code word is armed. The operation has begun. The move is clean because the preparation is dull. The county investigator stands from the sedan and crosses the lobby as if to ask for a bulletin. The state CID agent enters from the glass door with a tote marked supplies. The roving unit jogs the last 10 yards to the side door. The man in the cap sees only Ruth and a table until he sees a badge at chest height and a second at his right shoulder. He turns to the alley. The unmarked car is rolled to that mouth and stops him with a door open and a voice calm and even telling him to place his hands on the glass. There is no struggle. The lock clicks soft. His pockets hold Aaron's fob 08 on a key ring and the campus visitor lanyard folded twice. The phone on him is a prepaid model with the battery pull tab still creased. The watch on his wrist is not his. It is Aaron's, set to vibrate, still paired to the phone on her counter. The small mechanical detail closes the circle without a guess. At the station, the line between local law and federal process is kept clean. He gives his name as on the intake form. A consular notification is faxed and emailed with a stamped receipt. A qualified interpreter sits down in the interview room. There is no confession that matters more than the artifacts already in the bags. The prosecutor's office drafts charges late that night. 2 counts tied to death in a dwelling, 1 count for tampering, 1 count for abuse of remains, and 1 for false statements on a housing intake. The language is dry and heavy. It will move through arraignment and hearings on a schedule that has nothing to do with how long the neighbors listened for footsteps and heard none. The landfill hold that looked like paperwork becomes a search with flags and grid stakes at first light. Crews work in a rectangle mapped by the transfer station ticket and the truck GPS track. Dogs run the line. Items are recovered that answer procedural questions without requiring anyone to imagine the rest. The chain places mass and objects where the timeline says they should be. It is enough to satisfy a court that the story told by machines and paper has weight. It is enough to keep the room sealed for a final sweep, to keep the unit taped until all logs are pulled and all prints recorded. The central question from the first morning sharpens under light. If the records insist on routine, who used that gap and how did they hide the time? The answer is not clever in theory but meticulous in practice. The person inside Birch Hollow studied the building and the street until he knew which camera lens held moisture, which stairwell avoided the elevator log, which day the roll-off was pulled, and which minute the trash truck pinned eyes and ears to the alley. He used Aaron's fob to ghost a door event at 7:43 while her regular bus idled 3 stops south. He took the stairs to avoid the elevator's carriage time. He placed her smartwatch next to her phone to trigger an 812 sync on the apartment Wi-Fi, creating a false read of proximity. He kept her phone stationary so the tower map would say home. He wiped surfaces and cleaned drains to posture as normal, and he stopped using the campus visitor card when the home routine no longer required the mask. The gap was real A few quiet minutes built by normal service, and he fit himself into it. The aftermath is administrative and human at the same time. The parish program suspends host placements for a month and drafts a revised checklist. 2 references, a weekly welfare call, a copy of an arrival plan for guests that includes a backup address, and a requirement that the stipend card be picked up in person each week rather than mailed. A training afternoon is scheduled for volunteers. Ruth writes the agenda in careful block letters and adds a line about trusting quiet red flags that feel small in the moment. Birch Hollow replaces the courtyard camera housing with a new unit that drains condensation and brings all clocks under a time server so logs line up to the second. The building posts a hallway sign reminding residents that the side door is under camera and that use after midnight triggers a soft alert at the desk. The maintenance ticket about the flickering exit sign is closed. The alley truck still comes at 7:40 on Mondays, but now the driver knows a patrol car rolls past at random times during that window. The small world cleans its edges. Neighbors submit written statements. Corinne writes in neat loops that she knew something was wrong when the child's steps did not ring on the floorboards. The court will read that sentence and pause. University Hospital sends a liaison to the parish service and then to the courthouse to sit with anyone from the building who wants to speak at a later hearing. The ex-spouse is reached. There are forms to sign that no one wants to sign. The case file closes the way these cases close, with a stack of exhibits, a chain of custody log thick with neat signatures, and an evidence room shelf that will hold objects until appeal windows close. Vega takes the grid off the board and slides the sheets into a binder. She writes a short memo to supervisors recommending that the department standardize on time-synchronized collection across vendors for door controllers, elevator logs, and any street-facing devices. She underlines the point that a 1-minute drift can create or erase a person if no one notices. Policy is dull. Policy is prevention. On a Monday a month later, the side entrance at South Peoria Street looks the same to anyone who does not know the story. Just after 7:43, the alley truck reverses in for the roll-off and leaves a gap. The new camera lens is dry. The door reader ticks on a clock tied to the same second as the bus GPS. Inside, the building is quiet in a normal way. In the hall, a neighbor carries a mug that steams and listens for the quick steps of a child on the way to the bus. The steps return. The gap stays empty. The small mechanical thing that once broke the alibi now holds the world together by a few linked seconds.